dire scenarios we are considering. Unfortunately, we have moved in the territory of these more dire scenarios, but we want to carefully assess and learning more about actions taken and their effectiveness.
Can I add one thing? Please.
Sorry, just because you ask to be specific. The best specificity I can give you is that what we are assessing now is bottom up on a country level, what is the impact and how that aggregates in our projections. And I want to be very frank. As long as we do not know the duration of this outbreak, we will be in a higher uncertainty space. The positive we saw today, this morning, is a very high degree of mobilization and cooperation, very impressive, and I'm sure President Malpass would have the same take, and measures that are being put in place in a number of countries that are well-targeted measures, and they are going to be helpful to soften the impact and hopefully shorten the duration.
I just wanted to add on the economic side, the global supply chain and recognition of the impact, and then the importance of the private sector in that. So as we prepared our package, this $6 billion from the International Finance Corporation, the private sector arm of the World Bank, is important because it directly addresses some of the supply chain problems that we think are occurring. Thank you.
Thank you. Alfonso, FE, please.
Hello, Alfonso Fernandez from the Spanish newswire EFE. Yesterday, the Federal Reserve made like an emergency rate cut. Do you think that this cut was appropriate? Do you think that that call has made the markets more confident or more nervous? Thank
you. What is important to recognize is that central banks are closely coordinating with each other, and the degree of coordination over virtually the last days across the world has increased. We do need to have measures that are bringing a sense of confidence, and in that context, different central banks would act differently because they have different space and different priorities in that regard. We are keen to see attention paid on the financial stability, while at the moment the financial system is in a good shape. And I want to stress again, there has been a lot done since the financial crisis to put us on a better footing today. We do need to anticipate risks, and one of these risks would be around access to credit. Not yet demonstrably, but we have to think about it. In the call today, there was a very important message that came from one of our members, and it is, at the time of uncertainty, it is better to lean forward, better to do more than to do not enough. And that applies to health systems, and it applies to policy measures.
And to working capital. So I underscore.
Yes, and David would score that.
The need for credit, as you said, and the availability of that credit for the short-term growth needs that are out there.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you. I'm going to take Bloomberg in the front row. Eric.
Good morning. Eric Martin with Bloomberg News. I wanted to ask Managing Director about the You've mentioned that there is some degree of unpredictability in terms of the exact levels for global growth with the revisions in the economic outlook. Are we in danger of seeing, is one of the scenarios being studied the possibility of a global contraction? And if you can talk a bit about, for both of you, President and Managing Director, about the thought process around the IMFC and the Development Committee meetings, and we understand the virtual meeting format for the broader meeting. But what are the considerations behind what to do with these two particular bodies? Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for the question, and with the risk of repeating myself multiple times, I would stress that at this point, what we are confident to state is that growth this year would fall below the level of last year. And we would need to be carefully assessing bottom-up from analysis of country-by-country data, and of course, on a global level, working together with the World Bank, what are these scenarios to present to the public. We, again, with the risk of being very repetitive, it is the duration of the outbreak that is, at this moment of time, difficult to predict. And it is also, we are at the time when measures are being put in place. We will see demonstrably the effectiveness of these measures over time. What I believe that there is a high degree of cooperation that is, in a moment like this, is absolutely necessary, and it would help us to come through this crisis in a better way. We will talk again. We will come to this.
I'll answer on the virtual question. So with growth below last year, recall it was already slow global growth. So it puts a particular burden on developing countries, on poor countries, and we'll be addressing that in the Development Committee meeting, which occurs in April. And I expect it to be virtual, meaning rather than people convening in Washington, there'll be audio, visual, and the bank has substantial capability. I think we'll have a useful Development Committee meeting under this scenario. But a key point is if growth is slower from an already slow level, that puts a big burden in. I think it's incumbent on people not to have measures taken that channel credit away from the working capital that's so importantly needed. So that's a key criteria in deciding and thinking about measures.
Could I just add on the virtual meeting 2 points? One, this morning we did a dry run, and it was a very effective meeting. We got all the business of the committee done. Two, as we move forward to planning the meetings, we are going to have other focused discussions as well. So I don't want anybody to be left with the impression that we are abandoning the agenda we had for April. We will just change the modality and the format of this agenda. And for those of us who care about fighting climate change, we are going to have a less carbon footprint this spring. Unfortunate event, but with this benefit.
Thank you. Let me take the lady in the second row. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Gary. And I'm Zhang Qi with China-based Caixin Media. My first question is, the Fed cut interest rate by 0.5% yesterday, and